Guys, as we know, getting into a house can be an extremely difficult and overwhelming process, right? And that's why we've teamed up with Kirsten Ballew here at Discussion Combustion. With her top-notch expertise, we guarantee you it's going to be an effortless transition into your dream home. She has the knowledge, the expertise, she has everything it takes, guys, to get you into your next dream home. She's licensed in Colorado and Florida. Fantastic.
You can absolutely trust that you're going to be in fantastic hands. And all you need to do to access that is visit the website. And we have a really quick link in the show notes below. And be sure once you log in there to mention Discussion Combustion, and that will save you $500 on your closing costs.
We'll have this discussion.
Discussion? What discussion?
This is a discussion combustion.
Coming to you from Denver, Colorado, this is Discussion Combustion Podcast with your hosts, Kevin Batstone and Arthur Raw.
It's good to be back.
It is good to be back.
Yeah, we had another quick turnaround, guest cancellation, and we're fortunate to be here in the Regis area, down in the Denver Tech Center, and you were able to find us a last-minute guest. We got Brian in the studio with us. He's having a cold one. Welcome aboard, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We love the networking piece of the podcast. It's so much fun, getting to know people, learning new things. How are people making money? And we love talking to entrepreneurs, which you're definitely one. You and your wife together, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, do you guys want me to say a little bit about the business?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, how we got
Yeah,
here.
kind of how we got here, yeah.
So, so me and my wife, I guess our story for this business goes back. Yeah, you'll probably hear me say a whole lot more about it too, but it goes back to the pandemic, start of the pandemic. I was actually involved in a startup, and my wife was a real estate broker. So she was a partner in a real estate brokerage. I was a VP of engineering, software engineering for a funded startup, and the CEO was projecting, endless optimism. He was like, guys, we're going to get this next round of funding. Definitely going to get it. Definitely not going to go out of business. End of January 2020, we went out of business. So there was in January, February, March, February, March, looking for a job in, what was a, kind of not hot market to be looking for a high-end technology job. And then the pandemic starts in March. So all the interviews that I had just turned into, we're going to give it 30 days and not make any critical hires until this COVID thing shakes out. So 30 days, stretched on. So in April of 2020, we started Sage Digital, and that's our consultancy where we actually hired back most of our senior team after landing a few key clients. We do custom software development, and then it took like another 6 months for my wife to be done with the partnership she had. She sold that business. Another just quick aside, we hit the road in an RV for a year during the pandemic, and then built this business that we currently have. And now we do, she runs Horizons Marketing, which is the digital ads side of our business. So she does digital ads. I do custom software development. We have 23 employees and contractors that are, some are full-time, some are fractional, and they come in for different jobs. But there's 23 of us on our Slack that get stuff done.
And Slack is like it's a communication application like Teams or one of those things.
Yeah, like Discord, Teams.
Yeah.
It's a place where everybody talks, because email has become either spam or it's the official communication line, right? It's always too formal and it's not timely enough.
Well, and there's fun things in there too, like GIFs.
Yeah, right.
Like you could send
emojis.
You could go on there and be like, really, like, I'm gonna impress my team today, and I see this last comment that was in there, and I'm about to hit it with the perfect meme.
Yes, right.
Exactly. So there's that satisfaction of kind of removing yourself while also being professional and making a joke, which is a lot of fun on those type of technologies.
Well, it's a little bit more of a direct line of communication too, versus an email, like you said. I mean,
Yeah.
we all respond to those, but those kind of aren't as timely, right? They're not, as urgent as, I don't know, Teams and those kind of things remind me of the old AOL Instant Messenger. Remember that when that first came out? That was like the sounds, doo-doo-ding, you'd send off a message, and
So actually, I'll give you another insight into our lives. So me and Michelle, we're old enough that we kind of hit off our relationship over, was it ICQ? So,
ICQ. Why does that sound familiar? What was that?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm showing my age. So 1998.
Okay.
So there we were in college. Yeah, in Arkansas is where I went to college. we're both at the same college. She hops onto her friend's ICQ, which is just like AOL Instant Messenger. So she's on there and impersonating her friend. And then finally, like, I don't think she's impersonating, but she's just using her account.
Okay.
Because it wasn't as, like, people didn't have cell phones, right? We weren't walking around with, it's my identity. I definitely want to be signed in as me. It's like, no, I just want to talk to Brian and, whatever, we're talking.
He knows.
And he knows, right? Yeah. So I know. But then we what do we do? It was Memphis in May, because this is in Arkansas, and it's
that had a ring to it.
Oh, have you heard of Memphis in May?
Memphis in May?
It's like one of the best music festivals.
Oh, I thought you were just in Memphis in May.
No.
It's a music festival.
Oh,
so
you
we
knew
go,
that, Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tennessee music.
Great.
So we're just chatting over her buddy's or maybe roommate. I forget their relationship, but they we're chatting over this ICQ for those old enough to know, who's in the OG club. And I was like, I'm going to go to Memphis in May this weekend. You want to go? And she's all like, yeah. So we hop in the car within like hours. We hop in the car, drive down to Memphis from Northwest Arkansas. So this is from the Bentonville, Fayetteville area, if anybody is aware of those areas. Home of Walmart, down to Memphis, and then spend... It was like 3 or 4 days and nights there, hanging out with friends. We pick up some of her friends on the way who just happened to be going, and I meet up with one of my buddies who lives in Memphis. And then, like, we weren't even dating at the time, and then we didn't even start dating for, like, it was a while, a couple months. And then we're like, you know what? We're best friends, so let's. What do you think? Let's do this. And then we've been best friends, roommates, and married boyfriend, girlfriend for.
Since 98.
Since 1999 is when we got
99.
married. Yeah,
Wow.
so almost 23 years.
So you brought in the new millennium with a promise for life.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's right, yeah.
Well, but you said there were the boyfriend and girlfriend time, so when did you actually get engaged?
Man, I'm trying to piece it all together. She's going to kill me for not remembering when
She's
we
watching.
I know, right? Yeah.
Sorry, Michelle. It's okay.
And I don't have I can't go repair this right ahead of time. I'm on the spot. I know we got married. It was August 14th, so our anniversary.
Oh wow, it's coming up.
Oh yeah.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thanks very much.
How many years? Then we can do the math, right?
That'll be 23, I think. 23 years.
Okay.
Next few days.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you'd be quicker at doing that math.
Well, it's 2022. You take 23 out, that puts us in 99.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? So right on the
99.
money.
You just add one to whatever.
So the
it is.
You got
14
engaged quick then, but according to my math. Like from the time you guys met on this chat site to going to the Memphis in May, you guys are dating for what, about a year?
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, sounds about right. I think we got engaged. Was it Mother's Day? Might have gotten engaged in May. Like the following May. So I guess we dated into the summer. So it was like August or September. Then we got engaged the next May. And then we got married the next August. So I guess we dated about a year.
That's terrific.
Yeah. And we knew each other from like friend circles before
Yeah.
that. So it was one of those things that was very natural by the time we were, actually thinking about tying the knot.
Yeah. And that was before social media and all this garbage that we have now that,
Before all this
contaminates
garbage.
some of that. I like that. I like hearing these relationships that develop before all that.
Yeah.
Because now it's just, I don't know, man. It's just a different entity now with online dating and the social media aspect and the jealousy and the comparisons.
Right.
I hit on this a lot. The listeners know I'm not a huge fan of social media, even though I'm on it. I have to be. It promotes the business, right?
Yeah,
It's a catch-22, right? But I just think I've seen more bad than good come out of it, like a 60-40 split, I feel like.
Yeah, I almost I love this topic because you're the purpose of this podcast, like what you were explaining to me, the way that it's you're not afraid to kind of go a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Social media, the human condition. I almost feel like because I've been there from. The reason I was going to college was originally for business, and then I switched to graphic design because business is boring, and let's do something more fun. And while doing graphic design, I didn't switch my major, but I started. This is the beginning of the World Wide Web, so I started learning, just self-taught, how to do HTML, JavaScript. Later that'd be CSS, all the technologies that build the web, and then self-taught PHP, self-taught Ruby on Rails, and then I had some really great mentors, right? Just like. the podcasting community is very open, like you guys, have told me you've experienced. Programming, same way. Whenever it comes to open source software, everybody wants to see everybody else succeed.
That's terrific.
And and almost you're kind of grateful that anybody uses your stuff at all. Like once you put something out there, and it's like your best effort. So bring it back around to getting into getting going in college, degree, graphic design. Crap, I lost the trail. I'm drinking. It's the beer already hitting.
No, I mean, it's all good. It's
social media. That's where we started.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to go somewhere else because I kind of forgot too.
Yeah. The lens, though, on once you have a community, once people are actually collaborating on something, if you have a community that collaborates, you have people who are kind of driven to get to somewhere. Like we all envision, this is how good this could be. This is how good how useful the open source software could be. This is where the discussion could go and how valuable it could be. Whenever you get a bunch of people, though, who can just say whatever they want, there's no direction. I think that what we're seeing in social media is this lens on how just gripey and in general entertained maybe we are, stimulated we are, in grumbling and watching people grumble and grumbling again without direction.
I can go off on this.
Oh yeah, we both can, for sure. I mean, it's one of those deals. It's an addiction. I mean, I really feel like social media triggers the same things that addiction does for for reasons that folks use it, but it almost becomes more competitive than it does collaborative. The stuff that we're talking about, right? Building a community, building a network. Social media was designed to do that, but I feel like we've seen more of the competitive side come out, and everyone's putting their best images and their best self forward, and not really showing the bad times as well. You're only getting the good, not the bad and the ugly, because I get it. A lot of folks don't want to air that out to the public, right? That's what's great about podcasting. We get to air our lives out, but I think that's where social media has taken a turn for. It's just a constant competition for likes, comments, views. I'm my best self, all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah. So competition for what's funny is right now I'm imagining like what's happening in the YouTube comments when someone replays this and they're hearing us talking about it, and just like what's going on down there in those comments down below this video.
Here's a shame. I'm sorry to interrupt. But we got one warning on our YouTube channel very early on. One warning.
Right when we stepped in the video, and since then they have completely disabled comments for us.
Oh, no kidding.
We cannot turn them back on. We try to turn them on. Yeah, we try to turn them back on every week. Come on, YouTube. Come on.
Yeah.
For 2 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So like, there's so much potential feedback that, unless you want to hit up discussioncombustion@gmail.com or the IG.
Yeah, or follow us on IG. I think our viewers and listeners have figured out, okay, if I want to talk to these guys, I'm going to have to go somewhere else.
Hit it up on IG.
But to your point, right, it does kind of turn into a little bit of like a comment war on some of these topics. Right, on certain videos and things like that. We see it on Twitter, we see it on YouTube, we see it in a lot of places. People start firing back, and you see all these threads building, and people start trashing each other. Oh, this guy's an idiot. And it's like, how did we end up there?
Yeah, right. Well, so I mean, I guess this is the chance for I'm not supposed to be the one asking the questions, but you guys have talked to a lot of folks.
Yeah, we love questions.
Okay, yeah, cool. Well,
hit us.
So what's going to be the guiding light, the principle that actually takes us from the mire of competing for comments and competing for whatever it is that's making people say, oh no, my dig at these guys is the most important. What's going to get us on the
Do you mind if I
go ahead?
Thanks, Kev. I appreciate that.
I've talked a lot already, so go ahead.
No, look. So it's simple, and the most complex questions, the most complex questions always have a simple answer. And my answer to that is self-reflection, awareness, and acknowledgement. So in order to disassociate yourself with trying to fit into social norms and follow what truly makes you happy as an individual, you have to first acknowledge where you need improvement. You need to be aware of where you want to be, and then you also need to have a self-reflection that is positive to where you're not beating yourself up for making mistakes. We've all made mistakes in life, and that's part of living. Problems are a part of living. I've made so many mistakes in my life, and that's my simplest answer to your question.
Well, that already rings pretty true because it's kind of what we see in open source software is whenever you are not your creations, right? You're not the one that just because you made something that's out there that you think is useful, that's not necessarily who you are. It's just one thing that you did. So being able to just take critiques on that, and someone else says, oh, you know what, this is great, but you've got the security flaw here, or this is great, or this is going to crash if used in this way. And to be able to take that and say, wow, thanks for helping me improve in my game, right? Helping me just do better the next time and improve this thing right here. And together we go on. That's actually how Linux, if you guys are familiar with Linux operating system.
Linux runs, and this is a cool fact, and fact check me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
But Linux runs like all the gas station pumps and like a bunch of cash registers and all this other shit. Like everything everybody uses every single day, like for their credit cards.
Yeah.
That's Linux.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, like I'm not in that industry, so I'm not entirely sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Sounds true. I do know.
I sounded confident enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sounds like a good answer to me. What is it? Android phones are Linux, and then the majority of web servers out there that are running web applications are running on Linux. Then Linux is actually, I think it's derived, or it's modeled after Unix, which is what's behind Mac OS and iOS. So you have some flavor of Nix, this open source operating system that is behind the vast majority of cell phones that power the modern economy. So open source software. Once you have that kind of like ability to take a critique and then improve on it, that's actually what runs all the stuff around us. Windows is different. I notice we have a Windows laptop over here on the desktop. Not going to bash Windows because Windows has its own, like especially the gaming community knows that it's.
So I'm going to tie this into your question and then hand it off to Kev. But basically, where your intuition brought you with what I said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the simple answer to how do you get off social media, how do you remove yourself from this toxicity, that could be applied in every facet of life, and it.
Oh sure,
that's kind of where I'm going with what you're saying.
Yeah, right. Well, so if I can take what you said and kind of make it into my own soapbox, are you guys familiar with mindfulness meditation?
Yes,
just
absolutely.
Like the practice of mindfulness. Just being it's not even like a lot of people haven't tried it, because I'm sure that there's some folks.
It's difficult to battle your conscious.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
The subconscious is actually what you're battling with your conscious.
Okay.
That's what you're trying to fight, is your subconscious repeating back everything that it's told, that you don't realize what it's told, and it's an echo chamber.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, for me, my experience with it has been just realizing, just turning the lens around and focusing on my own, just the thoughts that arise, whether I thought I was thinking them or not, and previous conversations, new conversations I haven't had yet, all the random stuff that my brain comes up with, just seeing that again and realizing, oh wow, the fight is inside me already. Before I even go and tweet that tweet or respond to that dude, my brain's already thought it. So just being aware of what I'm thinking, and again, I am not my creation. I'm the observer of my thoughts and patterns and actions, and I'm the decider of the better version of me that I'm going to let the world see. So just having that ability, kind of exercising that, like you're saying, being aware, being to put words in your mouth, mindful of the next thing that you're going to say. I really do think like if more people thought. Maybe just another step ahead about what it is that they let out onto social media. I really am not a what is it? Social media, like defund social media guy. I think actually it's a communication.
It's got a good purpose for sure. I
right.
think. And we've hit on a couple good points here, so I'm going to try to piggyback off a few of them.
Yeah. What's I'm curious.
Well, I think going back to one of the points that you made about constructive criticism, there's a big difference between that and just people blatantly dissing the product or saying this is crap, get rid of it. Right? When we started this project, there's so many people that just thought you guys aren't going to make it. You guys are way over optimistic. Never going to happen. It's such a saturated market. That is not constructive criticism, right? So as we started to get rolling a little bit, people would be like, hey, maybe think about approaching it this way, or maybe tweak this or that or the other thing, right? So I think the constructive criticism piece echoes home for me for a lot of reasons, whether that was when I was playing music, my professional career, any of that kind of stuff. There's a difference between that and just blatant hate and, your product sucks, whatever. So I agree with what you were saying there with the network of people saying, hey, with the software development, maybe try this, maybe tweak that, a little bit of this and that, put a little grease on it, whatever. I think that can go a long way. In regards to how do we get off social media, I don't think we ever get off of it. I think that we need to learn how to manage it, just like we do anything else, anything in moderation, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I drive home a lot on the show is, find the times to get off of it, whether that's having a meal with your family, you going out with your friends, leave the phone in the car. What do you need it for, right?
Yeah.
If there's an emergency, someone's got a phone. So I think it's that, to me, looking over the next 10 years, right? Because we're going to see a lot of developments with technology and Meta and Facebook.
Well,
and all
the
this
youth
stuff.
that's been growing up with a lot of technology in their face.
But
Right.
I also think there's going to become a new fad of where it's cool to be off social media and maybe being more present and maybe being outdoors.
wow.
I could see that becoming a thing, but I still feel like it's going to be a 70-30 deal.
Can we just go ahead and hashtag that? Because honestly, I think that might be one of the coolest fads and most retro. What is that? Hipster? That's like a hipster fad kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, a trendy thing.
Yes. So, what would the hashtag be for?
Hashtag give up social media.
Control. So no, that it has to have a ring like
Social
yeah,
media
like-
in moderation.
Take back my own life.
Yeah,
Take back real life.
There we go. We're getting somewhere.
Yeah, right. That's 4 words. I don't know if that'll catch on though.
Something along those lines, though, I think will get the people excited to, maybe isolate it a little bit and not.
Yeah.
I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast once, and they were determined that the average screen time for a millennial is over 8 hours
per day.
Per day.
day. That's a third of the day. You figure if you sleep for 8,
Wow.
you're up for 8 working. That other 8 is consumed with screen time. It's unreal.
That's
it's
a lot.
unreal.
Oh, gotcha. Like outside of work.
Yeah.
8 hours outside of the 8 hours. Or
Correct.
Whatever.
Just doing your phone,
Or maybe
you know.
like just in the littlest, smallest, minute moments of time that they have on their breaks.
Yeah.
Like they just automatically go for it. I've been guilty of doing that too.
We all have.
And I've like really focused
yeah.
on that this year and worked on my muscle memory for opening up apps. And one of the pieces that helped me was being aware, was acknowledging that I was filling my brain with nonsense, and then being aware when I did it. And then so I would the muscle memory would have me grab my phone, open up the application, and I would grab it and like do the thumb once or twice. And I'd be like, hold on a second. This is meaningless. And I'll close the app and put my phone down immediately. Like, well, what can I actually do to help myself move forward?
Find a better you.
Yeah.
Rather than just the you that responds to stuff or gets entertained by stuff.
Find a better you. No, I like that for sure.
That's the hashtag.
Find a better,
better
you.
you.
That's what it is.
Yes.
It has to be, because so many folks cling to their identity of what they are on social media, right?
Oh, yeah,
And anyone
right.
that knows us, we goof off on there, right? We put up stories, we have fun with it, so I don't want it to sound like we're complete hypocrites bashing it and then we're on there when we get
Right,
off the
right.
show, because there's a balance. There's a yin and yang to it, I feel like, so I don't think it's ever really going to 100% go away. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think we're too connected. There's too much information. There's too many people
It's
communicating.
about moderation.
It's about moderation.
It's a tool also, and so it's like saying, oh man, what if soldering guns or something could go away? And it's a tool. You can still use it for something useful.
Right.
I don't know a lot of people that are like losing their lives to soldering guns, for example. but social media being a good tool. When we were talking about Slack is actually how we built a company, and most of our people are not in this area. We only have an office here in the Regis Center that holds 2 people, and that's all it needs to hold, because everybody else is different time zones, different places.
Remote.
Working remote. Like we started in an RV. Well, we didn't start in the RV, but we ended up in an RV, and then
Conception was in the RV.
actually, conception was pandemic.
Okay.
April 2020, and then
You hit the road.
And then we hit the road. I kind of had the advantage at first of having bookshelves, behind me, just like everybody else. Everybody else was kind of learning how to keep their stuff together and continue working in early pandemic days. So the bookshelves behind you were like that was the prize look. It wasn't just the kitchen. It wasn't just you kind of had your stuff together if you had bookshelves. So I was there with the bookshelf havers, and then when it was the backseat of the car. Okay, but I already had clients, and so it worked out.
What was that like going on the road for a year in an RV? You took the whole thing?
Yeah, hard pivot. Took the whole family. We have 3 kids. So
wow.
3 kids who are all of social media age, right?
Okay.
Well, maybe not all. We have an 11-year-old. He was 10 at the time when we kicked off.
Got it.
So social media age is actually 13 and up for Facebook and Instagram accounts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when you don't lie about your age, it's 13
Oh,
and
okay,
up. Yeah.
okay.
And nobody knows how to do that on the internet.
Well, it's a good thing, too. That no one can actually lie about their age on the internet. So, yeah, we have an 11-year-old now, and then 15, and then a 17-year-old now, who were, -1 for all of them. And so it was tough. It was it was a big trade-off, right? Like in every area of life. We actually had to kind of roll back the clock when we moved to the Denver area, moving from Arkansas. This is 6 years ago. We already had experience moving from a larger house to a house that was 2/3 the size. So we had the practice of just ditching a lot of stuff, giving it to friends, or selling it on Facebook or Craigslist at the time.
It feels so good to minimalize a little bit, doesn't it?
It
though?
really does. Yeah, that's one of the reasons we were kind of like, okay, we can do this, and we can see national parks and do all the things. We always said we always call ourselves travelers. We haven't traveled, we hadn't traveled anywhere except for the major 1 time a year, 1 week vacation where you go and then you just feel like all worn out because you're just trying to pack it all in. Then you need a vacation from your vacation when you get back. So by downsizing everything, we either gave or sold everything away within a month.
Wow,
and
That's a quick turnaround.
yeah, it really was. I mean, we live in a metro area, so it was really easy in this kind of suburban area to get just offload a ton of stuff. It's always somebody moving somewhere. So when we did that, we went down to a 10 by 10 storage unit, and that's where we stored the stuff, like the chairs we really love, the sofa we really love, the bed parts we really love. So we can, when we get back to normal life, if we ever did, we could. But whenever we got in the RV, we thought maybe this is it. This is just what we're going to do, and we'll see how it works out. There's full-time families that do this, and they're still on the road. A lot of them have really prominent YouTube channels, so that was a big help to us, and we kind of thought maybe we'll do that too. The moment we turned the camera on to actually capture those moments and put them on a YouTube channel, we were like, God, we got to edit all this stuff. Okay. So that was out. We didn't do that. We weren't one of those folks. But we did, we started off seeing family, and then we drove down to see, started in Arkansas, saw family, drove down to Louisiana, saw...
The Ballew?
Yeah, seriously. Saw the Bayou, saw what weather conditions were like.
Nice.
Living in
Louisiana.
Denver.
Down on the bayou.
Right, yeah. You totally forget what rain and humidity is like when you live
brutal
here.
down
It's
there.
heavy.
Yes.
Oh, Louisiana's brutal.
Oh, it didn't let up for days. And whenever you're driving, it's just like you're driving through through a lake, like you're submerged
You're just
as you're
wet
going
all the time.
Right. So and we had a problem with broken windshield wipers.
Great.
Yeah. As we were going.
So y'all took a major risk.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is something we've learned after doing 166 of these. This will be 167. Is that a lot of the entrepreneurs that we speak to, they talk about how important it is to take risks, to be uncomfortable, to do something outside of the norm.
Yeah.
And you did that not only by yourself. Like some people okay, I got to pull this together by myself. I got to do this. But you did it with your wife and 3 kids.
Right. Yeah. It was not gonna lie. It was my wife's idea. It was her brilliant idea to do this. It was also her insane idea to do this. So she knows that it was ridiculous, and also that it really took all of us kind of buying in to make it happen. Like all of us in the family. If any one of our kids wasn't seriously going to be okay with it, then we really wouldn't have gone through with it, because their mental health is important to us too.
Sure.
Without talking about my kids too much, embarrassing them in front of their friends, we have all different neurotypes in our family, right? Or not all, because there's a lot, but we have a good cross section.
A good selection, yeah.
Good selection. There you go. Good selection of neurotypes on the shelf of our family. So there was a lot of, there was a lot to consider there, like who was going to succeed in school, because they all succeed in different ways. Academically, also with friends, and we actually, whenever we got close to ending the trip, it was really because we saw our youngest was not doing well without friends that he could interface with regularly, like
in
every
person.
day, in person.
Social interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's healthy, though.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So he does really well with friends. We wanted to get him back to that. And sure enough, like the moment we got him back in his school, his old best friends, they were still there. And he also made a whole bunch of new best friends, because that's just kind of how he is and who he is. Best thing for him. And then that continued through the summer. He's got this really close group of guys that are friends that are part of his swim team. So yeah, all those things, we took a risk. And then we were honest with ourselves. What parts of this are working out? We sold the RV two happiest days of an RV owner's life, when they buy it and when they sell it. It's true.
Yes.
But we sold it.
Also, if you own a boat. My dad said that same quote about boats before. Yep. Yeah.
Buying
exact
and
same
selling.
thing. Yeah. Day you buy it, day you sell it. There's fun had in between, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna actually.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, actually being at the lip of the Grand Canyon, and then going back and staying in the RV and going right back out to the Grand Canyon because we could. We're just right there.
It's terrific.
It was awesome. Niagara Falls, same thing. Just being able to experience the United States that way was awesome. But then the other side of it, once we got our youngest back into his social circles, where he could really flourish, that's also a great part of life, and we didn't realize how much we were giving up. But then we experienced something new. It was great. Got a lot of great photos. Had a great time. Family did get way tighter. We actually had some mental health problems that again, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I'm an open book, but that doesn't mean that I can reach.
Being on the road can test you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you
Yes.
guys are confined to a tight space. That's kind of what I was thinking. You're on the road with 5 individuals.
Yeah.
Is tight confinement. You're probably going to butt heads at times. You're going to get
Yes.
irritated with each other. I mean, I spend too much time with this guy, and I get irritated with him in this room. So
I always love you, Kevin.
hey, I'm not saying I don't love you. I'm just saying, you can get a little irritated. You really start to see people's traits and all that kind of stuff. But like you said, it made the family tighter. You create a lot of moments, memories, experiences, pictures. I mean, it's great. And it was temporary, right? Bought, sold, your experience. And no, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think we've actually traveled more regularly, more often, and made it more purposeful since we've come back and sort of homesteaded again. Travel's been a more important part of our life that we've actually made happen since then. So that change has also been really nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important thing to live life within the intuitive nature. And I guess what I mean by that is that first thought you had was the right one.
Okay.
And a lot of times that's a difficult thought to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so I like to think that complacency lives in the conscious mind, and the subconscious is what is our intuition.
Okay.
So our intuition is going to tell us what we need to do, and then our conscious mind is going to attempt to talk us out of this within 5 seconds.
Yeah, right.
So it's like the 5-second rule. This is not mine. Like, I learned this. But basically, life is lived in 5 seconds. So you have this intuitive thought, like, I should do this. And that might be difficult. But if you just go at it immediately, like, stand up, okay. Like, we'll try to call somebody to get them on the podcast. And we're like, all right, 5 seconds. Call them right now.
Send it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah,
see.
do it immediately.
Yeah.
And there's something about that, not overthinking life and just getting involved in what you already know is right, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of fits in with what you're talking about, getting the RV, traveling the nation, and doing these things.
Mm-hmm. Well, to expand on what you said, like to actually have that original intuition, right? Like your subconscious is going to come up with something, and that's if you had no inhibition, right? If you just followed every thought the moment that you thought it, you'd be bouncing off the walls, like we'd be unconstrained and no one would like to be around you. But like you say, there's some things that you just know once your conscious mind gets a hold of that, then it turns into, okay, how do I do this? How do I actually do this? Okay, I could call this person, and that'd be a really great thing. You start building the path forward to, this is going to complete my future. This fits into my goals, and then through that small little, I guess, like trial, you find those things that go from instant thought, no inhibition would be a problem, and you select for the things. Instant thought, oh my gosh, this is the piece I've been looking for. And that's kind of what, you find the gold, among the rough, or diamond among the rough.
Yeah.
That way.
So true, man. And you talked about, before we went on air, about the go-getterism and the go-getter,
Yeah.
Kind of mindset, because I think that plays into it a lot with kind of what we're talking about here, because not everybody is that type of person that just wants to hop off the couch and go run and, start a new business or do all this crazy stuff, right? It's not for everyone. But generally speaking, I think that everyone's capable of owning it at any moment if it's something that they want and you unleash fury on it, whatever that is, transformation in your body, a new career, a new project, an RV experience. If you put enough focus and energy on it every day, right, it's going to come to fruition. We talk about positive affirmations a lot. They've changed my life. Just affirming to yourself, I'm going to do this. I'm strong, I'm healthy, I got this. Whatever it is, believing in it, right, you can create it. And I think that's something to kind of echo off of when we look at some of these things that we talk about with the 5-second rule and doing these changes. But I like the hashtag go-getterism.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. That was, the conversation we were having before. What I also realized too is, the diamond among the rough. It may not even be the same thing the thought that you have. That's that initial thought that fits for your life. Somebody else with a different life experience may not have that. And actually, I'm pretty sensitive. Like, here we are, a bunch of guys running our own show, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the other thing we notice about this room is that we're male, we're white, and like the things that we have going for us to get us here allow us to have a lot more thoughts. And we're like, you know what? I got a platform where I can do something with this, because life has kind of got me here. And that's not the same of everybody. That's got the same gender and skin color as us, but there's a lot of people, especially, that don't have the same gender, don't have the same skin color as us. I think that's another thing too, from traveling and running my own business. I have seen with a lot of friends who they didn't have the same platform, right, to be able to jump off of. So whenever they have that initial thought, it may be a lot harder for them to connect it to, this actually could go somewhere. This actually could put me somewhere else. So anyway, there's another soapbox that I feel woefully inadequate to actually address well, but it is one of those things that I guess I'm learning how to be more sensitive to, especially as a person of authority. Yeah, as I get older.
Progression is important in every aspect, okay? And here's my philosophy that I've lived with for a long time, is that when I meet an individual, I like to start with a common level of respect. Yeah. And so I'm neutral when I meet somebody. Like, I don't have any predispositions. Stereotypes play a role in everybody's thought process. I won't deny that. However, I'm aware of that. So I'm able to, make my own disposition based upon how somebody treats me, how they treat people around them. Yeah. And from there, we could either build on respect or we can lose respect. But that's how I treat everybody. And I feel like that's a great place to start, because there's so many amazing people, and amazing people come in every color.
Yeah, totally.
They come in every culture.
Yeah.
And so much talent around the entire world. So if you're going to be, and I'll call out everybody right now. If you're going to be somebody that is going to prejudge an entire ethnicity based on stereotypes, then that is a horrible place to build relationships, learn new knowledge, and gain new experiences. So my challenge of the week, and I like to do a challenge every week, my challenge this week is to break down your racial stereotypes. How are you profiling people of different ethnicities, and are you really correct in your encompassing of all people within that? Have you ever actually talked to these people? Have you actually ever gotten to know people of a different ethnicity, social background, or even financial background? I've done a lot of construction. And in doing that, I've worked in wealthy houses and I've worked in low-income houses. Whenever I worked in a low-income house, and this is not consistent across the board. It's not consistent across the board. But the majority of low-income houses were extremely giving. I would arrive to do the work. They would offer me a glass of water, a glass out of their cabinet, and, oh, I'm cooking something. Do you want anything? Cool. Hey, I got coffee. In the high-income houses, you're looked down upon. Why? Because I'm in dirty clothes doing dirty work that you're paying for? So that's a whole conversation.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for us all to understand there's good and bad people in every race and ethnicity.
Yeah, right. Actually, what's funny, my kids and I talk about this all the time too. This is it's funny how I think social media has even propagated this, because it gives us the ability to share that GIF, that meme, that video that like, oh, that fits with my experience. And unfortunately, we have like the stereotype I hear about all the time is now Karen, right?
Yes.
Like, and so there's these names now, and you meet someone named Karen. What's funny is whenever we went on vacation, just this last week, we were traveling to Steamboat Springs, stayed next
Beautiful
to.
town.
Yeah, it's a great town, and I have a buddy that lived there for a number of years, and I can see why. Like, fantastic place. We stayed in this condo, Airbnb, right next to this woman, and we didn't meet her the first day, but I met her neighbors, and they were like, hey, you can't park there. And we're like, oh. And then they said, you're going to block Karen's access to this stuff. And all of a sudden, like, it got triggered, and I was like, oh, that's who I'm dealing with here. Okay. Like, we were respectful, and we, parked somewhere else, and we stuck to the laws there. Next day, we met Karen. She's like the sweetest lady, and already I had this meme, the everything I was gonna have, like hear from her and all of that. The day before, whenever someone else told me about Karen, turns out she was like the neighborhood sweetheart who was ready to take care of everybody. We ended up giving her like a half dozen eggs we didn't use whenever we were done, and petted her dogs and stuff. By the time we were done, kids loved her dogs. Yeah, but it's kind of unfortunate how quickly like any stereotype, right? It doesn't like I think the stereotypes we were raised to be vigilant against were probably if you had good friends, then it was probably vigilant against racist skin color stereotypes. Now there's a whole meme-based culture of stereotypes that they're not necessarily skin color, but it's the Karen stereotype, which unfortunately you see someone of that age with that haircut or whatever it is, or just someone of that name, whatever age it is. It's unfortunate that there is a current of I guess prejudgment that's already happening. It's unfortunate.
That's a good example of it too. I feel like I was just watching one of the newer South Parks because I like South Park.
Okay, yeah,
it's great. And shout out to them. It's 25th anniversary today. They're celebrating at Red Rocks right now. But Stan's dad like turned into a total Karen in the new. I don't want to give any spoilers, but
okay.
he everyone's calling him Karen throughout it, and it's just kind of funny to see those guys riff on it. Piggybacking off what you're saying about how these names and these stereotypes can just ripple through quickly. And I think it goes for every ethnicity group, beliefs, whatever. Like you could be boxed into anything. Oh, he's a jock. He's a redneck. I get that one a lot. Art and I have seen it on this side, right? Being in the public light. People think, oh, these white guys, you must be, Trump supporters and all this kind of stuff. Like we've just seen, it's like, how did you get there?
Yeah. It's a boys club, you're misogynistic.
Yeah, we've heard it all.
And all this shit. But then you sit down with us for 10 minutes even. Not even the full episode.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm vulnerable, okay? Like, I am willing to take criticism and listen to it. Like, I'm not afraid to cry. Like, hashtag modern man. Hashtag modern man. Men are allowed to cry.
We've done it both on the air.
Men are allowed to show their emotions. And as much as a pillar and a rock that we want to be in protection to our family, because physically, you can't, that is what it is, like men physically, right? So like, there's that, but then also we're conditioned by media and movies.
And influencers.
Yeah, and all this different stuff, man.
Our culture.
And women, too. I mean, all the ladies of the world having to fulfill these beauty standards. Like, look, I'm cool with girls growing out their armpit hair a little bit. Like I'm cool with that. Like, I have no problem with that.
Hashtag let it flow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, let it grow.
Let it grow.
No, but for real, like, let those leg hairs come out a little bit. Like, no judgment for me. I mean,
right.
And also, I'm a hairy man, so how could I hate on somebody that grows hair too? To like fulfilling society's standards is a lost cause. And if you live your life to fulfill society's standards, then you're going to feel unfulfilled. You have to be an individual. And it's good to fit in and not be completely off kilter. Like, we have responsibilities.
Yeah.
We're born in society. That's part of the deal. However, you still need to respect yourself enough to understand what makes you happy.
Well, and finding your own way a little bit, like you're saying, your youngest definitely is a social butterfly, wants to be around his buddies. You know, that's a great thing, I feel like, because that's how I was growing up. I wanted to be out in the dirt. I wanted to bike ride, be with my friends, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's important for, folks to figure out, rather than, a social media influencer or The Rock or whoever it is, like, there's great people out there that influence people's lives, but are you doing it because you want to do it, or are you doing it because this person's doing it? It seems like the cool thing to do, like that trend that everyone jumps on.
I think humans are always going to be that way. We're always going to find. I don't know if you've read the book *Sapiens*, and I actually can't remember if it's the one that points so much to tribalism, but how we're predisposed to find tribes, to form our own tribes of common beliefs, to form, and it's part of this sort of protectionist thing that protects our DNA, it protects our health. Because if you see someone else who, like, they look different from me and the people I'm used to seeing, maybe they could be carrying a disease. So there is like this thing inside of us that makes us, prejudge before our conscience takes over.
Almost primitively.
It is, yeah, and it's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate for modern society where we have to get along with the other side of the globe, where people definitely don't look like we all have. Our DNA is programmed to have the numbers of digits and limbs, but culturally we're so different, and then even physically we differ to a certain degree. So overcoming that and realizing, well, we can be part of the same tribe as long as we have the same goals, right? But getting to those same goals, and I do kind of love how this keeps coming back around to that social media conversation. If we can discover the same goals together, then we can overcome any of those other differences, because it actually takes someone else with differing abilities than yourself. Like if I used to think whenever I was young, man, if there were just like 5 of me and we just got along and we can just do things together, we'd take over the world. Probably not, because then we'd all be ADHD and we'd all be like shooting off in every direction, trying to do our own damn thing because the other guys don't get it. The other 4 of me, or whatever, the other 5 of me don't get it. Instead, it takes someone who can get along with me to bolster me, and then that other person I get along with complementary skills. That's actually how we get farther, not by being the same, but by being able to complement each other.
Yeah, I think, and that's, we could go deep with that too, because I feel like you just hit on a really good point about kind of where we're at in the social state of like America and how divided we are.
Yeah.
It's terrible. We've really seen a wedge get driven into the people of, you're on this team, you're on this team. And then everyone on this team believes the same, like you're saying, everyone believes the same over here. No one's collaborating. All these politicians talking about bipartisanship, right? That word, it's just a talking point at this point. But I think, generally speaking, when we look at it, because I don't want to surround myself with people that believe exactly what I believe and have the same interests as me. I feel like I grow more when I get around folks that maybe are more successful or have a different opinion and can teach me a different, perspective, right? That's how we're going to innovate and grow as humanity. And going back to the caveman times, right? Someone was thinking, hey, let's bang this over here and let's rub these sticks together over here, right? It's that collaboration.
Yeah. Hunters and gatherers. Right?
Exactly.
And chefs and doctors and people who discovered penicillin because they like being in the laboratory, and people who discover, the Archimedes screw or something because they like tinkering, not in just that kind of laboratory, but this kind of laboratory. I think the human race is, I think we could just get over like the divide. Do you guys like Tool?
Love Tool.
as a
Yes.
band, Right
Yes.
in Two.
Maynard's the man.
Oh God, yeah. But the song Right in Two, where it's talking about angels on the sideline, and the lyrics go something like, "Angels on the sideline saying, look at what they do. Give them, Father gave these humans free will, and all they do with it is like start dividing things right in two." And it talks about,
Great line.
oh God, yeah,
It
the
is.
lyrics give me chills. But it's, and I'm sure I butchered him too. If Maynard ever graces us with his view,
Oh,
then,
Maynard's gonna listen.
He's
in.
tuning
Yeah.
in. He's coming on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, that's our next hit list.
Maynard?
All right. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
I mean, no. I'm for sure gonna yes. That's a good one. Good on you guys for
Absolutely.
yeah.
Incredible
yeah.
musician.
Absolutely, yeah, and lyricist too. Like,
Yeah.
So anyway, but that song, like the, what it talks about is how we. I mean, think about what a gift that is. You know, if there is a creator and who's created us, then that's the gift he gave to us, that he or she gave to us. And then this is what we do with it, is find the dividing line and make war parties against each other. And that's the state of politics. Bipartisanship, well, it still just means two, right? It still doesn't mean community or
Yeah.
collaboration or getting together and making something better together.
It's constant division.
Yeah, exactly. It still hints at division.
Yeah.
So overcoming that natural sense of tribalism and dividing things, if we can just say, maybe we can recognize that we are all divided in some way because, we're our own person. But then we can come together and create this unified goal, this unified vision together. Yeah. I think that's what's going to eventually heal politics. And it's really unfortunate that we have, like I said, media that directs us to think it's either black or it's white. It's either one or, zero or it's one.
And people are so susceptible.
We really are. Yeah, it's got to be a
Yeah.
soundbite for us to listen to.
Yeah, you kind of, you look at like a sports analogy, right? Oh, I'm rooting for my team.
Yes.
My team. That other team sucks, right? I don't like that guy. They scored more points. They're cheaters, all this
Right,
stuff.
cheaters. It's
right?
always some moral component, right?
It's always, there's always some sort of emotional attachment to it, I feel like, whether it's politics, whether it's music, whether it's whatever. Like, there's just so much divisiveness going on now. And I almost feel like, the big government entities almost like that a little bit, because I feel like a united nation.
It's a division campaign.
It is.
Yeah,
Because if
right.
we all come together, it's almost too powerful, right? Because then it's like we can really take back America, or whatever we're trying to take back. I don't know, man. I think something's going to have to give here at some point. We can't keep going this way.
You think you're really tough? Do you really think you're a tough individual? Because I'll tell you something tough to do. Is you sit down in a room with someone who has opposite beliefs of your own, and you sit down with them and respect them as an individual, even though they disagree with you.
Yeah.
And you have a conversation with them and ask them some real critical questions in a respectable way.
Yeah.
Like, that is tough. But the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And so that's what people need to do. And the internet provides this safety net, this shielding of
A barrier.
you don't really know who I am.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of hidden behind this.
Big man behind keyboard syndrome.
Exactly.
That's it. I mean, you got all these angry people walking around with Dorito dust on their wife beaters, just firing off these angry tweets, right?
Because they're not doing shit.
Well, but then that's it. And I think to piggyback off the question you asked earlier, how do we get away from that? I think you just answered another topic point or talking point about it. Get together with people that have opposite beliefs.
Yeah.
Right. That, I mean, we've all seen the uncomfortable Thanksgivings with families that have very different political opinions that start firing off, and it's like, hey, pass the cranberry sauce, calm down, But I think there's a time and a place for those conversations. I don't think Thanksgiving dinner is necessarily it.
Sure.
But I think it's fun. I love getting together with folks that have, different beliefs than me. I'm not going to alienate myself to just, I'm a pro-gun guy and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I want to hear it all, right? And so that way I can kind of pick and choose what works for me. Does this make sense, right? Because there's just so much going on, and especially socially too. We talked a lot about he, her, but and I'm going to piss a lot more listeners off going down this rabbit hole. This trans movement is interesting to me. I love everybody. I respect people. I'm a freedom guy. I believe in liberty.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do is fine with me. I have no problem with it.
That's
if
awesome.
you want to be transition to this or that and the other, that's fine. That's
Just
owning it. That's owning your identity.
Yeah.
But what I'm starting to see is a little bit of almost I gotcha moments going on. Like you didn't address me properly by this pronoun. You're a piece of shit, right?
Gotcha.
And I'm kind of like, well, how do we kind of address this appropriately without really upsetting people of different ideologies and what they identify as. Because again, I don't have a problem with it. I'm starting to see folks getting backed into a corner.
Yeah, I actually have some experience on the topic. We have a trans person in our family, and so their entire life they've been called she, and they're not. And the thing is, we were guilty of that too. Is not calling them by the pronoun that they thought fit them best, or they discovered fit them best, right? So growing up their entire life, we knew them as she, and so you just have certain expectations, especially before puberty, right? Mm-hmm. Once it started coming out, that they were trans, but also that they were at a mental health at risk of suicide. Mm. Once that came to the foreground, and we started understanding that, it was like, oh, holy shit! This is something we need to pay attention to. This is bigger than calling the right pronoun or whatever. And it did help that this person was he was very kind to everyone else about it, and they're still he's still discovering things about himself also. But when we started doing research, my wife and I both started doing research and discovering oh wow, what do we not know about this topic? Because there's the moment you start Googling on anything trans related, you get probably with anything, you start getting a lot of blogs and opinions and things.
The cookies.
Yeah, exactly. You start getting the little bitty bits of information that are not the whole story. There is a shout out to Wendy Zickerman and the Science Versus podcast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one, but Science Versus podcast is fantastic.
I've heard of it.
She takes on, and she and the whole staff, right? But she's the front person. Mm-hmm. They take on issues like, what about in this case, transgender versus science, science versus transgender, the whole topic, or versus Russian elections, or versus, whatever you can apply a scientific method to discover, they do that. And then they do the research, and they read from the research. It's a newer topic that we as a culture are beginning to address. But one of the standout statistics from the whole podcast that really hit home is, first of all, the statistics on intersex traits in the population. It kind of blew my mind how high it was.
What's an intersex trait?
You have traits of either or both sexes. So you're born looking like a man, looking like a woman, but you actually have traits of another gender.
Okay.
1.7% of the population. So 1.7 out of 100. So if you were not 1 out of 100, 1 out of 60 or 70 or so has traits of other genders. Mm-hmm. First of all, so that's just intersex. That's not even necessarily identified.
So what would that be though? Is that based upon the society norms? Like sometimes I'll get emotional and cry.
No.
Okay. So I don't understand. So I might ask some questions that seem novice. But
what would be some of the traits, do you think?
I'm also not a biologist, not a scientist. Mm-hmm. So
none of us are.
Yeah, this is the reading too. But we can go as deep as I know.
Keep going where you're at. Yeah.
I'm curious.
It's boy and girl parts. So chromosomes, you might have an extra extra Y chromosome. If you look male, you might have an extra Y chromosome, which gives you all sorts of there's more chances of different things, but they're actual physical traits shared by 1.7% of the population of not just the gender that you think. Okay. So first of all, it's more common than you think to actually have physical differences from what we think is blue for boy, pink for girls. Mm-hmm. The other thing too is if you identify trans, so this is one of the things you discover in yourself, that you are not the gender you were assigned at birth by your birth certificate, that your suicide rate, I forget what it is, but it's like something like 8 times higher if you don't get the acceptance of your peers and your social circle around you to identify the way that you identify internally. If you do get that, however, though, suicide rates goes normal. So just that alone, we're like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, for
you're not accepted. And
you can't be you.
Humans are like ants. We're a colony creature.
Right.
We thrive better together.
Yeah, totally.
Do you think that the going back to like the 60s and 70s when like homosexuality wasn't really accepted and it was extremely frowned upon. Do you feel like some of those numbers would kind of apply to that same
and I'm
suicidal
sure
rate?
As I've had more conversations, because of course, now this is this affects my family, right?
Yeah.
So as this has become an issue that my family's become more educated about, I've had this conversation a lot with lots of folks because it's personal. I have personal experience with it. There was a fireman that I was talking to, and he has talked a number of people down off the ledge of suicide, and he's lost a few too.
Wow.
And whenever
that's heavy.
It really was. Like it was a hard conversation actually to be a part of, and like what I learned through that from his experience was it was a lot. But whenever we started talking about this, he didn't know these things, these statistics about, different, just trans identity. Mm-hmm. And whenever we started talking about it, his eyes like widened up, and he was like, "Oh my God, if that could totally be it, like that statistic alone could explain how many people he sees of teenage years." On the ledge, right? Like at risk of suicide, that he would go and talk to, that may return to that same place whenever he's not around, like a week or two later. He may have talked him off the ledge once, but whatever's inside them that's not healed is still there. And then they go right back out, to, a couple weeks later. Maybe it's okay for a day, but it's still an issue. It's not, it's not just an issue of talking him off the ledge once. It's a deal of our culture recognize in the case of trans identities. Our culture giving a person support.
I think it's gender identities.
Okay.
Is like the PC
way to say it.
Terminology.
Yeah. I think they consider like before folks identify as whatever they want to identify as, it's like a gender identity crisis or however they word it. I'm not too sure. It's a topic I'm trying to understand because it's all around us now, and you want to do the right thing and treat everyone with respect.
Yeah.
But it gets a little confusing at times, and it's almost one of those topics like, ooh, don't talk about that kind of thing. But it's like, well I want to know more.
I would like to say something directly to anybody that's in that situation. I firmly identify as a male. However, that does not make this disingenuine. So you might feel alone. However, there is a plethora of people that are in your same shoes. You're not at this alone. And the journey of oneself and self-acceptance is a long, cold, hard road. So toughen up, fight for life, and continue forward. And who cares what the noise is saying? Put on some headphones with some good music, search the right people. That community is there. You have strength. I just want to throw that out there for that.
Yeah, I love that positive affirmation. The hard part is, I think, as anybody goes through adolescence, right, you always feel like, oh God, this is happening to me and no one else. The moment that you find your tribe, you find your acceptance, which is, on the one hand, it feels like it's getting harder to do because the internet itself, you hear the voice of the crowd, you hear the voice of what's normal, just kind of drowning everything out. But if you can find the people that accept you, even when it's not your parents, it's not your best friend, it's not the people you grew up with, that's hard, but you can do that. You can find your tribe.
There's
you can find people
there.
There's acceptance out there, even from people that haven't gone through exactly what you're going through. Finding that acceptance, though, it's key, because that's where your happiness is going to be. You can find a new tribe. You can find new people that accept you for who you are. So yeah, the experience that we had are having right in our family is
we talked a little bit about maybe it's adolescent, somebody who isn't of adult age.
Yeah, that was our experience.
And so you are temporarily trapped. And it sucks being in the in-between. Yeah. All right? It's never easy knowing that there is a place that you need to be and you don't have the capability or access to be there at this time.
Yeah.
That part sucks.
Adolescence is a tough time.
Yeah.
We've all been through it. It was rough for me.
We get to look back, right?
Yeah,
and we get to say it was temporary. But whenever you're in it, nothing feels
forever.
temporary.
It feels, it feels
everything
infinite.
feels
Yeah. You feel trapped. You don't know who to go to, what emotions to act on. I mean, I've said it many times. When I was like freshman, senior year, I was a mess.
Right.
That's really when my anger problems really started coming out. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Your hormones are raging. It's a tough time, right? And then this was before the social media norms. Like, I'm old enough to say I didn't have, other than AOL Instant Messenger,
right.
That was what I would run home to. I didn't have that instant access. So it's a different time now. So for folks that maybe are being influenced by, Instagram or whatever the case is at 14 years old, trying to figure out their identity, it's a confusing time.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot of hate, a lot of shun from it, right? You're talking about the division of this country. A lot of folks don't accept it.
Right.
It's a tough predicament to be in. But I think that was good advice for sure. Just there's enough. I guess that's one of the good things that we can take away from the connections in the social media is you can find communities and people
that's true
to hang out with that are going to be accepting of that. You can almost kind of screen that a little bit better than maybe we could have when we were in high school. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm gonna drill this home a little bit, and then I'm gonna segue. When you're stuck in the in between, it's time to fucking grind. Okay.
Right.
No, and I mean this in a way that like, that you're making yourself uncomfortable, and that your situation sucks.
Yeah. And
you're going to endure the pain because it's your only option. However, all right, and I didn't mention this before. Long-term listeners know I had a heavy opiate addiction. For 12 years, I was blatantly addicted to it. Once I acknowledged that, it took me 5 years to get off of it. That's 17 years dealing with an opiate addiction. I'm almost 2 years clean. I've created a podcast, a production company with my wonderful co-host in that time. I've gotten promotions at my job. So my whole point of that to tie into self-identity through gender and dealing with your family not understanding or your peer group not understanding is this is just creating a diamond, okay? Diamonds are formed under pressure, and that takes time. So if you're getting challenged, if you're being tested, and you're being hardened, then bless the Lord. Because honestly, that is where, in the end, once you are walking down your long, cold, hard road, you're going to understand how important the struggle is. The struggle is important. Everybody needs to struggle. So that's the point I had to make. I'm going to segue now. And we're talking about a lot of great stuff. And so one question that we
What'd you have to say there, Brian?
I was going to say, just
go
also,
on. Sorry.
I do want to acknowledge, good on you for recognizing, like, whenever there's an addiction, there's actually a problem there, and deciding this is, like you said, time to fucking grind. Like, getting on the path that you wanted for yourself. That's very hard for a lot of people to do. But that's, we've been talking about taking risks, changing things, changing your life, just taking account of where you are and where you want to be and what's lined up and what's not. So I think that's awesome. I'm really encouraged. I didn't want that to pass, like, before we got on to something else.
It's heavy info, and sorry, I share it often. So it's like, I try to normalize the struggle of being addicted. I mean, so many people are struggling with some type of addiction. So it's normalized in my mind. So it's something everybody deals with.
Yeah.
And let's find a way through that. I mean, Kevin's had his struggles.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure you've had yours.
Yeah.
It's part of life, right? And I think it's good to touch on it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily normalize it, but just bring attention to it. Everyone's dealing with something, whether it's a gender identity crisis, an addiction, a fear, whatever it is, right? Somebody's dealing with something.
Normalizing the human experience, that we're not all the catalog, right? We're not all Instagram. Like the Instagram photos that are just so perfect, we all are capable of taking those. Also, we know what it takes to take those. Like, you got to get out of your comfort. You got to get there, set up the shot and whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's not real life. No one just goes, click and whatever, just like takes a picture of their buddies, and it's so easy to be beautiful. Instead, that's, there's some effort that went into that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I didn't want to take away from where you were going also, too.
And thank you, Kevin, for recognizing, because it's important for people to feel heard and picking up on social cues. And so I appreciate that, Kev, and I love the feedback. And, we could go on and on. That's the thing, is like, this is a deep conversation, and the three of us
I'm having a great time. This is great.
We're in tune, like, we're harmonized right now, and it's a beautiful feeling. And this is what happens when you take a little time to get to know people. You put your phone down and look at pupils.
Yeah.
and pay attention to that.
Need more of it.
So we like to ask every single guest. You want to finish this?
Yeah, we do. So,
Okay.
One of the questions that we ask every guest, and we're obviously very curious to hear your response, is if you could offer humanity one piece of advice that would better everybody's lives tomorrow, what do you think that would be?
Man, do I feel I don't. It's a great question. Thank you for putting me in the place to be asked. I don't feel qualified to actually. I hadn't thought about it, and I don't know what that would be.
Yeah.
I guess if I could wave a magic wand, right? I think we've already talked on it. We've touched on it. At least that's what's top of my mind is healing the division, finding where we could go, and I don't mean where we could go that is what each one of us already has an answer to, but discovering the better answer that comes from the diversity that we have, right? The cultural diversity that we have in the United States is, we are the world's melting pot. It's where everybody can come and find a new life. It's why we still have, what we have, this immigration that brings all the wonderful thought power to the U.S. If we could just figure out how to get over the differences, right? To celebrate the differences.
Accept each other's differences.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then make something out of that. Then I wish that's what we could do.
That's a solid piece
That
of
hits.
advice for sure. Yeah, no,
That
that's
hits.
good. I think that, we could look at that a couple different ways. I mean, how are we going to dissolve some of the differences? I mean, we're always going to have different opinions, right?
Yeah.
I'm always going to be the best racer, right? We're always
He
gonna,
is, though. No, but he is, though.
We're going to have those kind of, that's fun. That's fun
That's
banter. Not like, I
But
don't want to ever
not
see
the
you
best
again.
street driver.
That's up for debate, right? That's the playful banter, which is what it should be. I feel like.
Yes.
Our differences now are so like, I don't want to see you anymore. Don't call me because you don't believe what I believe. So solid advice. How do we get there? It's going to take everybody. It's going to take everybody actively trying to, like we talked about, just being aware, aware that, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't believe the same as my neighbor, but I'm going to go have a beer with him and throw some steaks on the grill. Just hang out. Just rub shoulders with people.
Do you mind if I expose you a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate that, man. It's
aired
out of
my whole life
respect.
out of here.
This is out of respect. So, and people know this that have been listening. When Kevin and I first met, which was like 13, 14 years ago, you had some very, how to say this, definitive opinions.
That's fair.
Oh, guilty, right?
Yeah. We've all been there. However, I loved Kevin. Like I could tell early on, I was like, I love this guy. And so all I would do is just, in a respectful way, well, why are you feeling that way? And this is how I feel about it. You don't tell people what to think. When you tell people what to think, there's abrasion. You're trying allow people to learn themselves. Life is a journey, and we all need to learn our own lessons. That's why when I was a teenager and my dad was telling me what the deal was, I didn't listen. And I went and made the mistakes anyway. However, once I made those mistakes, then I learned. So I'm trying to apply that to what you're saying as far as humanity as a whole. Because we all need to give each other space. And allow each other to make mistakes. And look, not everybody deserves the respect that is inherently given when respect is given back. Some people are pieces of shit. You can't get around that.
Yeah, you're always going to have bad apples.
But you're going to learn that. So in general, though, there are really good people that disagree with me, that disagree with you, and you as well, Kev. However, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that we have a different opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm using our friendship as an example.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of different opinions, and you're one of my best friends.
Oh, hands down. No, it's again, I think it's we touched on this a couple times throughout this episode. I think it's important to keep an open mind, and surround yourself with people that don't have the same opinions. It's okay. I think we've gotten so far away of people just, alienating and isolating themselves away from, oh, this guy, he believes this or voted for that person. I'm not going to talk to him. That's not, what are we doing?
Yeah,
we're spinning our wheels.
It comes back to that Karen stereotype.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a new type of. It's the same old patterns, right? It's stereotypes and prejudgment that just It's like we're predisposed to do that. It's
Yeah.
part of the human condition. And the sooner we recognize that and realize, oh, I'm doing that thing again, in real time, right? I'm doing that thing again to the guy.
The mindfulness that you spoke about.
Yeah, right. Doing that, yeah, exactly. If I'm doing that thing again, when this person hits my car, that's the hard part, right? Like someone just ran into my damn car, not in real life, but it's happened before.
Okay.
And like instantly you're that mad at them because all the things you assume about them.
Yeah.
Could be they're a student driver and they're learning to drive just like you're learning to drive, and they're just overwhelmed, to begin with. The moment you see like that student driver, I love that now there are student driver magnetic stickers, and we got them for our kids who are learning to drive, because the moment I see that person on the road, I'm like, oh, I can give them room. I want to see them succeed.
I've been there before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good analogy too. That's a good way to break it down, because it's like, okay, now we know the situation a little bit. There's a little bit of awareness of what's going on, and then you can also look at that from the flip side. You see someone with a Trump bumper sticker, a Biden bumper sticker, you'd be like, oh, this guy.
Yes.
Yeah. We've all been guilty of it, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say we haven't, but
No. Guilty as charged again.
guilty as charged.
Lock me up, baby.
Right.
Oh man. Well, we could have kept this one going for a while. I feel like we went into some deep stuff, man.
This is great. I really appreciate this. This is a good conversation.
We'd like to sit down.
You're an
and chat.
amazing conversationalist. I feel like you have a lot to give, and guess what? Now you're in our wheelhouse.
Awesome. Yeah.
So within the next year, we like to do repeat guests, like once a year type of thing.
Oh yeah, I love it.
And
get you back
that
on.
way our listeners
And your wife, too.
see how you progress.
You had mentioned
Michelle.
that off air. Let's
Yeah.
get Michelle on here. I think she'd have some fun. Just getting to know the stories and what you guys do, and this is also a good opportunity as we wrap it up. If you want to promote your business or any social media plugs
where
after
can
we
they
just got
find you?
done trashing it, where can people now get in touch with you?
I'd regrettably. So we build websites and we build custom applications, mobile apps, web apps for business, for HIPAA, for fintech. The best way to find us is not actually on social media. We went and found all the social media handles that we needed to find, but we don't really use them all that much. So find us at sagedigital.com or horizons.marketing. Those are the two main
sagedigital.com and horizons
marketing.
.marketing. Okay.
That's right.
And we'll include all those down in the show notes down below, of course.
Cool.
Yeah, so
I appreciate it, guys.
It'll be easy, and what a pleasure, and I would actually call this an honor. Sitting down with people that have a like mind like yourself, to where we can open up serious conversation and talk about it respectively. That's a powerful place to be. Listeners, we appreciate you so much. We feel like we have some of the best listeners and people that have helped support us along the way. We're so thankful that we get to do this every week.
Be good to yourselves, y'all. You know you deserve it. Thanks again, Brian, for sitting down with us, brother. It's good to meet you.
Awesome. Been a pleasure.